Hey, it's Joe again, and I'll continue on with part 3 of my series, Escaping Catholicism. And last part I left off discussing how my mother had had her tubes tied after I was born and never told anybody. And proceeded to teach me and my sister that tubal ligations were a mortal sin, resulting in the woman going to hell for having chosen not to accept any more blessings from God, as mandated by the Catholic Church. And how my father was conspicuously absent in any of this decision-making or any of this going to hell business. So when my mother told me that when I was 18, it was a huge shake-up in my worldview. Because you got to remember, I still was Catholic in spirit. I wasn't going to church anymore, but I still had been raised steeped in a very, very fundamentalist cult. You don't just lose that overnight. I was very strong in my beliefs that certain behaviors were right and wrong, and I knew tubal ligations were wrong, and I knew choosing not to have children was wrong. And I just couldn't believe that my mother was a mortal sinner. I just couldn't believe it. She was a huge influence on me growing up, and you know, my mom was a good person. My mom was an extremely good person, and for her to lay all this on us, to tell us she was going to hell, and we would just have to accept that, and that all she could do was beg God for mercy every day of her life. Suddenly, the compassion in me came out, and I'm not a terribly compassionate person. I'm actually quite an asshole. I have very strong opinions that color my views on things, specifically people's behaviors, and I think if you behave badly, you deserve the consequences of your behavior. And at that time in my life, I believed that the behavior of acting against the Catholic dogma was your own choice, and you deserved to rot in hell if that was your choice. But here I was looking at my mother, who was sobbing, and I loved my mother dearly, and I still do. And here she was, believing that her beloved God was damning her to hell. And I think that was the first time in my life I ever used fucking and God in the same sentence. Because I remember saying, any fucking God that damns my mother to hell for making a reproductive choice that every single woman on this planet has had to make at one point in her life or another, that fucking God can kiss my ass. And I remember being... motorcycle going by. Oh, it's a trike. Just let that be quiet. Okay. Yeah, I remember being furious at that God. And I don't know that that was the tipping point. I mean, no, I still believed in a God. I did not believe in that God. And that Christian God, I had no use for after that point. And I remember crying and screaming at my mother. At this point, we were at her kitchen table. Now, I don't remember the timeline. I don't remember how I got from that phone call to her table and how many months or days or whatever had elapsed in between. But this was a pivotal time in my life when I was 18. And I remember crying and telling her that God... Mom's biggest problem was that I had now left the church, pretty much officially. I pretty much had it with Catholicism and Catholic dogma. And that broke my mother's heart, because she truly believes that the mark of a good mother is one who raises her children in the Catholic faith and gives them a good foundation and a good upbringing, and they stay in the Catholic faith. And now my sister and I had both left the church at this point, and she felt like a failure as a mother, because she really took it personally, especially because, in a sense, it was her actions that had tipped it for me. Not specifically, that's how she perceived it. It was the fact that the church hated women so much, and I hadn't seen it. I knew it, but I just presumed that because I'd been born female, that was my lot in life, to be, you know, somebody's basic... I always call it a hole. In Catholicism, a woman is a hole for a man. That's all she is. She's there as his sexual thing, so that he doesn't have to masturbate and sin, is basically what it boils down to. Because to deprive someone of bodily autonomy, to say that their human body is not their own, and they can't make choices about their own human body, and I'm not even talking about abortion, because it could be argued that the fetus is another human body. I'm not even talking about that. I have opinions about abortion too, but let's just say your own personal body. That if you don't want to have sex, you should have a right to say no. But as a Catholic wife, you do not have a right to say no. And this is what I call marital rape. This is rape flat out. And, you know, it can be argued, they say, oh, the Catholic husband is supposed to love his wife as Jesus loved the church and be respectful of her body. And if she doesn't want it, he should be understanding to that. But at the end of the day, it's a very patriarchal, sexist religion. And if you happen to be married to a man who doesn't get it, and you do, my mother always taught us this, that as a Catholic wife, as we were good Catholics, like she raised us to be good Catholics, devout Catholics and dogmatic Catholics, we had the knowledge. We knew better. And if you knew better, you had to do better. It's like that Maya Angelou quote, the one that says, I did what I knew how to do, and when I knew better, I did better. And I do like that quote. It does ring true for the purposes of knowing that you don't always make good decisions when you're not in a good place in life. But we knew the dogma, and we were strong people and we could abide by it, whereas maybe Dad didn't, or maybe my father was, she was always teaching us that Dad was weak, and we were strong, and we had to abide by the faith even if he didn't, or whatever. So here I was, raised to believe, and again, my father was an alcoholic, so we had, this double whammy of pity, where we were taught to pity pathetic men who may or may not be religiously strong and may not be alcoholics. And that because we were the strong ones, we had to, work very hard at being good Catholics and doing our wifely duties and doing our duties as good, soldiers of God or whatever. And, I, again, never questioned any of this. This was my religion. This is the way I'd been raised. And to have to redefine all of this at the age of 18 and to realize that this is my body. I own this body. This is my property. I get to do with it what I want. You don't get to tell me, you don't get to make choices about my body, was really revolutionary thinking at that time. I had never even entertained such a notion in my entire life. I had no idea. And also to get that, it took me years to get to the point where I realized other people's problems are their problems. Like if you happen to be an alcoholic or weak or whatever, that doesn't mean I have to kowtow to your needs because I'm stronger. Whereas I was raised to sort of believe that was true. And that was a very revolutionary discussion with my mother that day, the day that we were both sobbing, and I told her that fucking God could kiss my fucking ass. I must have said suck my dick, because I'm known to say that, in my gender queer way, even though I didn't have the word for it back then. But I remember being furious at that God. And shortly after that, I moved to Toronto when I was 19, and I must have really eschewed the religion quite strongly at that time, because I remember living with my best friend at the time, Christine, in, where did we live? We lived like in the west end of Toronto. And I remember we didn't have a TV. We didn't have a lot to do. We used to play cards. We used to play like Rummy 5000. Rummy 500 is the game, but we would make it Rummy 5000 and just play for 7 hours straight. And eat vegetable soup. We lived on, I think, $25 worth of food a week between the two of us. Like baked potatoes and vegetable soup. That's all we ate. Mr. Noodles. Anyway, I remember one time we sat down with the Bible and a highlighter, and we decided to highlight the misogynist parts. And I think I had just discovered the word misogynist because my sister was going to university and had taken a women's studies course, and she was teaching me a lot of stuff on the sly. And I was just marveling at how sexist the Bible was. I had never really realized it before. And I always joke that I ran out of highlighter before I hit Exodus or whatever, because the damn thing is so full of sick opinions about women. And I mean, if you want to laugh, read, I think it's Leviticus. It's the chapter of the Bible all about definitions of ritual uncleanliness. Basically, women are ritually unclean under all circumstances, and you can't really touch her like when it's her time of the month or if she's done this or that or the other. And it's laughable. It's really laughable. Rape is sanctioned in the Bible. I could probably add links to that, but rape is sanctioned in the Bible. That's how much God hates women, or that God, or that definition of God, was so misogynist that how any woman can participate in that religion baffles my mind. I mean, I was a kid when I was in it, so I didn't know any better. When I knew better, I did better. So that's the conclusion of part 3. I'll have to think about how I'm going to go on to part 4, what's next in the evolution. But that's pretty much it for now, and I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.